today? You had to sit beside this guy?
Yeah, I know you have to sit. You have to sit beside both of us.
We only sit virtually together, like all the time.
Thank you so much.
We can do some karaoke in the meantime. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down. And now the rain's out.
We already have it on video.
That's all.
Yeah, that happened last night. It was
That was
not
so
good.
yesterday.
We need to make a new one.
Gemma was rapping last night. It was pretty bad, actually.
Actually, really.
Actually, she kicks butt.
you.
I should probably not say that. We're sleeping in the same room, and I do not want to get murdered tonight.
Never murdered.
So, everyone that's here, it's flying by. Con of Thrones is flying by. It goes really fast. What's everyone been enjoying the most so far this weekend? Is it the panels? Is it chilling with random people that you've met? Weirdos like me? I don't know. What's that?
The queso in the restaurant.
Ooh, I didn't have the queso. Now you're making me hungry.
That sounds good.
The restaurant, remarkably good.
We're competing with the Joe Dempsey panel, so everyone that's in here is truly a winner, in my opinion. to come here and listen to our shenanigans, my goodness.
Gendry's talking somewhere. I mean, come on.
Actually,
Are you trying to get rid of
That's
them?
true. It's true.
actually,
He's going to be talking about rowing down the hall if you guys want to go down there.
Actually, I was chatting with Joe earlier, and I got a little Instagram post, and we reenacted the leaner, taller scene that John and Gendry had. And I said, oh, here's Joe Dempsey. And I'm like, but you're shorter. He goes, no. You're supposed to say leaner. I said, no, you're actually shorter, man. So he looks at me and he's like, don't hit me with my Warhammer. And he says, hype and love. And that's my sign out for my YouTube, so it's pretty sweet. But yeah, we got a few minutes, so you guys can listen.
Do we want to introduce ourselves?
No.
Should we do that?
Yeah. So George, tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is George. I don't talk very loud.
Rolling? Is that rolling yet? Okay, cool. I'm Kyle. I'm Kyle from Azor Hype. Really happy to be here. YouTuber and Canadian extraordinaire from the lands of always winter.
I am Phil the Issues Guy from Phil the Issues Guy YouTube channel and the podcast. I'm also a goofy guy that's got Sorry about that.
All right,
I'm a goofball, but no, I'm excited to be here, and thank you to Kyle and George and Gemma for having me here.
I'm Gemma from...
Whoa. It's Gemma's birthday. We're going to sing happy birthday. Everybody. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Gemma. Happy birthday to you. She's like 474 years old. She's like as old as Mel Santos.
Well, she wasn't born in the village of Glenfinnan in 1583 like I was.
I'll start that again.
All the other panels are going to be like, man.
Kyle, shut up.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm Gemma from Secrets of the Citadel. It's my birthday, and this may or may not have alcohol in it.
Maybe. Yes, this may all have...
Mine is chocolate milk.
I'm George. I'm the only Stannis cosplayer all of Con of Thrones.
Stannis!
And I am sidekick to Kyle and Gemma. But y'all are stuck with me.
Sidekicks are just as important.
10, 9,
Sometimes they're more
8,
important.
7, 6. Okay, so today's panel is the best duos of Westeros. And when we watch Game of Thrones, we see obviously love relationships. We see amazing duos like Arya and Sandor. And then obviously we have these love-hate relationships and hate-hate relationships. So we're going to talk a lot about that today. We kind of each got a favorite on the panel. And then we're going to toss it to you guys. And hopefully you can kind of tell us some of your favorites. And we can kind of rock it and have some fun. Phil, let's start with you, man.
Okay. My favorite pair, if I'm looking at pairs, I think you put Bronn with a Lannister. I don't think you need to have. I don't need to pick
Cersei.
the Lannister. I mean, maybe
Not Cersei.
Definitely not Cersei. If you know the history, they used to date. And they can't.
I choose violence.
And they can't do scenes together. So, but I think Bronn. I can't decide whether I like Bronn and Jaime or Bronn and Tyrion together better. I think if you put my hand to the fire, it would be Bronn and Tyrion because I think that they're more equals on a balanced level.
Do they love love each other, you
I
think?
think they do, as close as you can to a bromance kind of thing, and that's a little side thing. The way that, oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. But I think they do, and I think they connect with each other because they can match each other's wit, they can match each other's bullshit, they can just keep going back and forth.
Can we curse?
And I think that's
Is that cool?
Yeah, I feel like he's been cursing all day. He's been dropping F-bombs.
Wait, can I
I'm so used to teaching that, like, I have to watch what I say.
Is anybody offended by F-bombs in
Yeah,
here?
raise your hand if I...
Raise your hand.
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
There's a dog, though. I think the dog was...
So-
that's your dog, never mind.
That's my dog, yeah. My dog raised its hand, though. I think, or raised its paw. I think Bronn and Tyrion, the way they say fuck back to each other, or mess with each other, I think creates this relationship that I can relate to in so many levels. Gemma and I were talking about how you can talk shit to your friends and have that connection. Tyrion and Bronn feel like a real dynamic human friendship relationship. So, especially on the show, I think
Look at back to the scene where Oberyn couldn't fight for him in trial by combat. I think that's one of the moments where you truly find that Bronn cares about
and
Tyrion.
you can see it. You can see it in his heart right there. And you can see that Tyrion cares about him. It's not just, I want to bail you out. I want to, work for you and make more money. Bronn has a soft spot in his heart for Tyrion. And I think you see that a lot in season 7 as well when they meet each other again. It just makes me feel great.
Where's my money?
And him and Jaime too are awesome, but I think Bronn, you add Bronn to anything, as I think you were saying this the other day. You add Bronn to anything, you got an awesome pair.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's, if you watch the show overall, clearly in the books, he's not as large a character as he's on the show.
Not even.
But the actor they chose, I forget his name.
Jerome Flynn.
Jerome Flynn, sorry. Yeah.
He has had such an impact and his energy has been so good with all the other actors that his role, almost more than anyone else on the show, has been expanded. He's been in, 7 seasons now?
There's a lot of actors too that have extended shelf life on the show, like George is talking about, because of the performance that they've made in the first couple of seasons, or by their performance. So that's something that's really interesting and intriguing. We talked to Esme Bianca
This morning.
She was only supposed to be in one scene in Game of Thrones, and then they were captivated by her performance, so they kept her in through the seasons, and we saw her expand her role, which is really interesting.
And George makes an excellent point that Bronn was entertaining in the book. I think they kept a lot of the same. It's unlike some other characters where I would argue they changed them from book to show and it works. And I mean some of the characters that it works with. With Bronn, they kept a lot of the core of who Bronn was, but Jerome Flynn's performance just rises it up and creates this liquid chemistry on screen. And it's a shame that him and Lena Headey have some baggage, so he's not in quite as many scenes.
They dated I think.
They dated, and I've heard this.
They had a bad breakup.
They had a bad breakup, and they purposely don't put them in scenes together.
Yeah, like in the scene in the dragon.
It's in their
The dragon pit.
I'm not making that up, right? That's real, right?
It's definitely real. And in the scene in the dragon pit last season, when he walks up and they're like, hey, let's go get a drink.
Him and Podrick go to
All other stuff's going on. Bronn's going to go get a drink while the entire future Westeros is negotiated by everybody else. And that's the reason why.
Enough of us men, though. We have the beautiful Citadel Secrets. It's her birthday today, like we said. She's got the soothing voice, so prepare to sleep. Oh, oops. Was that a burn? I do this on the podcast a lot. I think I'm getting kicked off our podcast.
My favourite duo is Jaime and Brienne. Because, where do I start with Jaime and Brienne? Because, obviously they hate each other initially. Well, not hate. He has a certain opinion of her. She certainly has a certain opinion of him. And they both slowly, very, very slowly, kind of discover each other. But while they're discovering each other, they're discovering themselves. And that's, for me, what's so important about that relationship. Obviously, we cannot think of Jaime and Brienne without that bathtub scene. And that is a story that he has never told Cersei. So if he's prepared, if he's reached a point where there's something there that, an openness that he can talk to her and explain that, and she's got this notion of what honor is and what it means to be a knight, and she thinks he is the antithesis of that. He goes against everything that she stands for and she believes in, and they just come closer and closer. she adjusts and starts realizing it's more complicated than that. It's a grey area, and he does the same. You know, she's this brood mare. He calls not a brood mare. He calls, what does he call her? He calls her.
She-bear.
Wench.
He calls her wench,
calls
for
her
sure.
wench a lot, which is. I don't know
pretty
if
rough.
that's a thing in America, but if I was called a wench in England, I would not be impressed. It's not a good word.
We had this discussion, didn't we?
We did, yeah, absolutely.
She's instrumental in Jaime trying to shed his Kingslayer name.
And it's just Lannister-ness too. It's Jaime. It's coming from a Jaime apologist or a Jaime fan. That relationship, whatever you want to call it. I believe he pushed that kid out of the window to unlock his powers, but that's
I'm just saying.
But I think coming from that point, that is such the central point of all Jaime apologists.
Yeah.
It's that moment with Brienne, that connection where you see the human side of him. And I think that's what's so important about that relationship. And from Brienne's standpoint as well. But just coming from the Jaime angle, you really get to see how he's a person in that moment. That he has warmth. He's not just a cold-hearted Lannister that's fucking his sister. I mean, having sex.
I'll take a drink to that.
So there's one slight line that I want to put out here, and it's like there's a line between disrespect or lack of respect and hate. They can be two very close things, but they're also very different.
Yeah.
Hate is something that you really, I don't think can get rid of or you can change. But when Jaime and Brienne meet, it's not that they necessarily hate one another, but they have a complete lack of respect for what the other one stands for.
Excellent point.
Yeah.
And over the course of time, what we see is that through their actions, we actually see them gain respect for one another. If they hated each other simply at the beginning, that would never have been able to happen. But they have a complete lack of respect for one another that over time, we get to see change and develop as they learn and become better people, both of them, for that.
You know what's really interesting is that, you know, everything that Kingsguard stands for, you know, these white knights really don't stand for that. And going back to it, we actually discussed this on our Zora High panel yesterday. Sir Gerald Hightower put Jaime in his place when Jaime spoke up about what Mad King Aerys was doing. He's burning people alive. Any one of you in the crowd, I was burning someone in the front row, you'd be like, Kyle, that's pretty freaking crazy, right? So I think that Jaime has always had this thing within him where he is actually wanting to do the best for the people. And he saved 500,000 people in King's Landing. We can't forget that. Has anyone else in the story done that? I don't think so. I mean, that kind of honorable act, and Brienne brings that back to him. Like reminds him of that honor.
And but again, I mean, think about this. Even Ned Stark, who showed up moments after that killing occurred, right after the Mad King is stabbed, he doesn't even know the real story.
No.
And no one does. And the crazy thing is that we know all these rumors and things that have gone on between the Lannisters and the Targaryens and everyone else. But the one story, the most important fact about Jaime that should have leaked out at some point, never did.
It's his ego that he wouldn't let that get out. He never wanted to satisfy Ned to give him any truth. He just wanted Ned's respect without earning it with the facts. Because if Jaime had sat down and tried to explain to Ned, I don't know if Ned ever, I guess this is a question for everybody.
Ned is a very stern person,
Ned would
too.
not have heard Jaime. I don't think there's any scenario where Ned would have come into that room, seen Jaime in that situation, sitting on the chair, and had been in a position to listen. Yeah, what the hell is going on here, Jaime Lannister? And I think it puts Jaime a little bit on tilt and makes him not disclose that in the way that people know that he is so responsible for 500,000 to 1 million lives.
And the weird thing is that, you know, we have the one person who we're introduced to in the book who everyone's supposed to look up to. Jon Stark has formed himself, or Jon Snow has formed
I think about
himself
the Nick player,
around what his idea of Ned Stark is. The man is full of honor. He is the ultimate warrior and these other things. And we find out that all these things about Ned in general are lies over the course of the next several books. He's really not the best fighter. He didn't beat anyone that he said he beat. He lied about his sister's daughter or son. He's also now, he knows maybe that Jaime did a good thing, but he's never done anything about it. So we have this whole thing. We have Jaime who's looked at very down upon because he's the Kingslayer and these other things. We have Ned, on the other hand, who is this supposedly, held high, almost saint-like character, and we see them slowly switching over the course of the books.
I know we're talking about duos, but that's just something to, when you watch back the series, knowing everything that George just said, and looking back and watching it from a different light in that first season, it just opens it up to a different perspective, and you can see so much how the Lannisters, they make mistakes. Again, he pushes that kid out of the window and all that, but ultimately, I'm so passive about that. And he pushes the kid out the window.
Wow.
Yeah, whatever. But ultimately, it just views it in such a different angle, and it makes Tyrion not the only gray one, so to speak, in the Lannister family.
I mean, obviously, Jaime is an exceptionally complex character, but so is Brienne. I mean, she's got some serious issues, and she's had a lot of difficulties in her life, and I think everyone here will agree that Cersei is Jaime's poison. She's the influence, like the further removed he is from Cersei, the better a person he becomes, and the closer he gets back into her radar, then he goes down that slippery slope. He literally has a dream about.
Can we ever raise a hands for that, by the way? Like, how many people think Jaime is actually honorable and somewhat of a hero without Cersei? So yeah, I mean, he's and that's kind of where his story. That bath scene is the first time he sheds that Kingslayer label. We talk about Azor Ahai, kind of like that first moment of realization or enlightenment to get away from all that crap.
Let's ask this though: if it was,
what was that? Yeah.
Sorry.
If you will, to piggyback on what you said, you talked about would Ned be willing to listen to Jaime?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of reflects on our world. Hell no, Ned wouldn't have listened.
No,
to Jaime
never.
if he walked into that room. No. And in our world, we listen to who has the most money. So this guy, with all his gold, whether it's inherited or not, is listened to in his representation, his caricature of himself versus the hero he actually is. Why? Because of the money. Ned would have never listened to him because of the money.
Now, Brienne calls him Kingslayer. But after that, she has so much more respect for him.
When she learns that he's a real human being,
Right.
a genuine hero. But nobody got
Genuine hero, I love that.
version of himself to see his humanity.
But that was self-perpetuating, wasn't it? That was,
Money pushes it harder.
It was since when does a lion concern himself with the opinions of sheep? He was so disgusted in the way in his mistreatment, the way that he viewed the situation, that he went the other way completely and said, "Fine, I will be the guy. Yeah, I will be that guy. I will be the Kingslayer. Yeah, if you're going to call me that, I'm going to be it and worse.
I'm going to own it.
Yeah,
It's his Batman.
well, that's what Tyrion. I mean, that's a Lannister trait, isn't
Exactly.
it? Isn't that what the Lannisters were brought up to believe?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Lannisters.
It's really a
If
mask.
you're going to be something, own it. That's what he says to Jon Snow. If you're going to be a bastard, own the title. Be what you are.
So I think that's pretty good for the Jaime
Yeah,
Brienne
we've
stuff.
just got Brienne
Yeah, we
and
just went on Jaime Brienne rant.
Jaime
Sorry
Brienne
about that.
on his shoulders, that angel and devil, that's what he's got.
So we are. What we're going to do is we're going to name a couple more, and then we're going to get you guys, like I said, kind of chime in on some of your favorites. But I'm going to take the wheel here.
I think we all know where this is
Yeah, we know where
going.
this one's
Do you
going.
guys know what my favorite one is? Can somebody shout that out from the crowd? Yeah, it's Arya and the Hound. They're the best deal.
Yeah, come on, Arya and the Hound.
Now, obviously, Arya is a tomboy, and she starts off not quite so innocent. She's causing some trouble, and Sandor, he's viewed as a killer, and he's in the Kingsguard. It's much like Jaime's situation, where he's in a place where he's thinking he's doing something that is honorable, but it's not. And we see Sandor get fed up with that eventually. But I'm gonna pass this to Gemma because she's gonna slay this. But Arya and Sandor are kind of the perfect pair. They teach each other lessons. Even though Arya is that young and Sandor seems to be a mature person, he's still dealing with these traumas that have affected him his whole life. And he, obviously the Red Wedding is kind of that moment where Sandor really empathizes with Arya because Sandor lost his sister and he's been viewed as this abomination. Despite being in the Kingsguard, I mean, if I had half a burnt face, probably not everyone would want to talk to me. I'm pretty handsome, I know that. But it's the same kind of thing. So I think Arya and Sandor is the best adventure. It's the most fun one, but it's also quite touching. Book and show. Gemma?
Yeah, it turns into quite a in a Game of Thrones context, quite a protective relationship almost. But she's not going to take any of his shit, and I think he appreciates that. They're funny. Obviously, they've got the comedic value. I mean, that scene at the Eyrie when Maisie Williams is just laughing hysterically because what else can she do at that point? It's just phenomenal. But yeah, I think you mentioned the Hound had a sister who
Brienne, you mean?
Who Gregor may have.
Oh, get out of here with tinfoil, please no.
And I think Sandor tried to kind of have this Sansan thing going on, but then he was removed from King's Landing. Well, he removed himself, didn't he? So he kind of picked up where he left off Sansa with Arya. Obviously, Sansa and Arya are two very different sisters. They have very different personalities. It's a good relationship. I think Arya actually works well with many other characters, and I think Sandor also works well with many other characters. They're both the kind of characters that they're kind of lone wolves. They don't need anybody, or they would like people to believe they don't need anybody. But actually, when they do find someone that they kind of click with, that relationship just blossoms.
They're both really honest. You find characters within the Song of Ice and Fire that are willing to speak their minds, or don't change who you are. And we see when she meets Nymeria, she's like, that's not me, And so that kind of thing, the Hound obviously discovers that after being tired of being in the King's Garden serving people he doesn't believe are worthy of his praise.
I also think one of the beautiful things about their relationship is, up until that point in the story, Arya had gone through so much negative stuff, and it's the first time we get to see her fight back. Take all these things she's learning, all this stuff, and the Hound facilitates her in a sense to add that another chink in what she's eventually going to become. This I don't give a fuck kind of attitude that she gets with him, and this power that she gets through him. And I think that's an important dynamic. They're very funny together, and I think that's a key to anything on Game of Thrones. Earlier we were talking about fan favorites. I think humor, and adding any humor in this dark universe, adds so much more dynamic. But I think with Arya, it's that celebration of seeing her become tougher, seeing her grow into the person that Ned even sort of relented that she's going to become by teaching her, by setting her up with cereal and all of that. I love that about the Hound and Arya's relationship, seeing her get tougher.
Well, you look at who she's looking for. She knows what she wants to be. She doesn't want to be her sister. She doesn't want to be her mother. She's looking for a mentor. She wants to be the tough guy, and when you pair her up with the guy who literally, his brother is just pure rage. He's kind of the Hulk, but the Hound is like the smart version of that. He is rage and power and smarts and everything that Arya wants to be. Yeah. So when she gets with him, she is the ultimate sidekick for him. She is it's like a Mr. Miyagi, Daniel Russo relationship.
We were watching Cobra Kai.
Watch Cobra Kai.
We were watching Cobra Kai last night in the hotel.
Everybody watch Cobra Kai if you haven't watched it and you like the Karate Kid.
So he's the right guy for her to be paired with, and their temperaments are exactly what they need to be. They work together perfectly, and he shepherds her in her training to the point where she needs to be to go on her next step, which is to go to Braavos.
It's her hero's journey. If some of you know the Campbellian myth, the hero's journey, the 12 steps of the hero's journey, the 3-act structure you see in many movies, the Matrix with Neo and Luke Skywalker. You all see them have mentors, but Arya has a few, obviously, that are really important. Syrio Forel is a huge one, obviously.
Jaqen H'ghar.
Jaqen H'ghar is probably, after the Hound, the biggest one. But
John was the first one, too.
Yeah.
You could say that John influenced her early on.
And he's going to come back into the story, too. Yeah.
He's her first enabler. He hands her, needle, and that's the thing that really
her representation of her Stark blood. Yes.
When she's shooting the bow and doing things like that.
Yeah. You're right.
You're right.
Absolutely.
But
I'll wait a quick. Oh, someone in the back.
My girlfriend and I actually talking a lot about the Hound yesterday, and when he's growing up, you don't realize how big and strong and intimidating he is because he's standing next to Gregor.
Yeah.
Gregor's 8 foot tall and weighs 300 pounds, and he's pure muscle.
And Sandor's 6'7" or something in the books.
7 foot tall standing next to him. You're like, who's that little guy?
That's why within the story there are multiple times where he's trying to hide out. He can't hide. He can't hide.
We're talking how he's kind of the saddest character that you can imagine because he's traumatized at such a young age that then he becomes the bully that fights back and becomes the bad guy when in reality, if not for Gregor, he would have been like one of these, you know, legendary like Kingsguard type figures, just, you know, slice his way through the battlefield, but he's also still irredeemable.
Yeah.
Is he a bad guy?
Sandor is more of an. Sandor is not. No, he has a good heart. If actually, let's ask the crowd.
He's done some questionable things. I mean, he murders a child in like episode 2.
Okay, let's ask
For the
everyone.
Lannisters.
There's going to be a whole power.
Show of hands here. Who thinks Sandor is the like one of the moral compasses of the show? I think Davos is one of those people that we can kind of associate as, oh, like Davos really gets it. He comes from Flea Bottom. He's someone that has a genuinely good heart. I think that despite Sandor doing some of these really bad things, would you say if you didn't look at some of those things that he was actually one of the more honest and good people in the story?
Honest doesn't mean good.
Yes.
That actually matters. Oh, don't trigger me.
So, if I may, so there's Sandor, there's Brienne, Jaime. These are all people who are honest. They don't lie. The only time, and Dunk, I'm sorry,
Dunk.
Dunk lies is about the.
And Duncan Egg is very similar to Arya and Sandor, by the way.
I mean, that's the whole Don Quixote
Really
thing,
is.
right? It's replayed several times throughout the series. So you got Todd and Brienne, you got Duncan Egg. They're off on quixotic journeys. But so I kind of see like an honor to Sandor, the same way that Brienne has an honor, right? They have a code that they stick to. Yeah, Sandor murdered Micah, but he did so in protection of his prince. That was what he was ordered to do by his prince. So he was still following his honor and duty. Yeah, it was a heinous act. Jaime pushing the kid out of the window was a heinous act. But had he not done that, that would have resulted in the death of
His family. Yeah.
and his children. And
Hey guys, come on in. You looking nice.
my opinion,
You're absolutely right in those situations. We can only. Honor is an interesting thing. It's what do you hold true? Jaime did that out of love and honor for him. Sandor does some decisions out of the basis of, before he leaves King's Landing, anything he's doing, you could argue, isn't what he really wants to do. He's doing what he is honor bound to do. And then comes to a point in the Blackwater where he's just like, yeah, fuck this. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm living for me for the rest of the time.
The point with Sansa, where he's with her.
Yeah, with
and
Sansa.
That's
he makes a
turnaround
real
point.
decision.
Gemma, you had?
But he can see, and I say this in my videos a lot. You've got 3 different types of characters in this series. When you first meet them, they're either a person who can see the hard truths already. They're a person who cannot see the hard truths and never will be able to see the hard truths. Or they are someone that could potentially learn to see the hard truths but aren't quite there yet. Tyrion can see. The Hound can see. Arya can see. She has a journey to go on and a lot to learn. But I mean, compare it to Sansa. Arya can see. Sansa cannot see. Sansa is not prepared to see those hard truths. She still sees these chivalrous knights and has these romantic ideas about what the world is like. And, you know, she finds out rather rapidly.
Do you think Sansa can learn?
I think Sansa can learn, yes. I think there's... Catelyn, no, could not. She would not have learned. The only way she could learn is to become an undead zombie, revenge woman, kind of.
If only that happened in the show.
Yes, if only we'd seen
George
that
would
in the
still
show.
be working on the show.
Yeah, but Arya and the Hound, what they have in common is they can both see those hard truths, the reality of this world and what's around them. And if you're in that situation, then you're not going to be surprised, are you? You know, if you don't, it's a tragic viewpoint to come from, that I'm not going to trust anybody and then nobody can let me down. I mean, that's a terrible way, but Westeros is not the nicest environment, is it? So maybe it's like a self-preservation kind of thing, and I think they respect that in each other.
So yeah, did anybody have any questions about the Arya and Sandor before we move on to Jon and Samwell? Jon and Samwell?
When Sandor kills the farmer and his daughter.
That was mercy.
It was mercy. I mean,
He left them to die. Yeah, he robbed them and left them to die.
That's also in the show, not necessarily the book.
We got that Gravedigger nod too, for those of you who have read the book.
Yes.
That was one of the most powerful scenes where the Sandor is reflecting on his actions. So
Before almost death.
almost death, yeah. Any more on Arya and Sandor? All right. Who thinks Jon and Samwell is a possibly great duo?
It's just a wonderful combination because you have I love when you have a pair that is almost like the opposite attracts type situation. And Jon he's not an idiot. In no ways is he an idiot. He's obviously smarter for obvious reasons than most Starks. He has a certain focus. But, sorry to Stark fans. But I do think it's so great to see Jon and his personality traits with someone that's so, I'm not going to say craven, unique as Sam.
Jon can see that, and he sees that from day one. He knows, and this is part of Jon's character arc and his journey, is that he can see people's strengths, and that's what makes him a good leader. And he immediately sees that Sam has value and purpose in the right circumstances. What I really love about Jon and Sam is that they call each other brothers before they take their oaths of the Night's Watch. Before they are brothers of the Watch, they are already referring to each other as brothers.
Sam chooses to go with Jon to go to that religious ceremony just because of his balance and his connection with Jon.
Also, something that I want to bring up is, is everybody like Lord of the Rings in this room?
Yes.
What?
I'm gonna bring up Frodo and Samwise Gamgee. I think that Jon and Samwell Tarly is kind of a great comparison there.
Yeah.
Think about that. The Iron Throne can kind of be seen as maybe the one true ring. That's something that needs to be gone in the end for the wheel to be broken, so to speak. The Night King is obviously part of that equation, but they truly care about each other in a way that is unique, like Phil said. Okay, I guess I'm slaying it, everyone.
I'm done with this one.
I guess I slayed it.
They look good in black together?
They do look good and back together, and they have the Abbott and Costello thing going on with one's bigger, one's thinner, and so.
I think too, like
the more interesting thing to think about with the two of them is we see them paired together in the beginning of the series, a lot more so than they are towards the end. It's not that they're not friends, it's not that they're not allies, but there's a point where they grow apart from necessity. And we see the flavor of the relationship change somewhat. Yeah. Not that they're not friends, not that they trust one another, but they're able to be apart. They've grown so close that they don't have to be together all the time.
Excellent point. And a lot of what we deal with in the final season with them is them talking about each other. I got a letter from Samwell Tarly. He's my best friend. I trust every word he says. Oh, I got to get Jon this information. When he's talking to Bran at the end there, they're both focusing on their love for Jon. I think we had a question or comment in the back.
Just that Lord of the Rings point, we talked about that panel yesterday, that Pip and Bran
Yeah.
are
Mhm.
marrying.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, in that scenario, Pip is Pippin.
Yeah. Sam and Pip. So Jon has a Sam and Pip, and Frodo has a Sam.
Also, something that we should think about is George spoke about how they've grown apart. The end of the series, obviously, things are contracting towards one or two storylines, and I think that we will see them interact more because I think either one of Jon and Daenerys is going to survive. That's just a personal theory of mine, and I know a lot of you. Oh God, Gemma thinks both of them are going to die, and it's going to trigger me. But a lot of things trigger me. Everyone, all right, whatever.
It's Game of Thrones. They're all going to die.
Hypothetically, let's say if Jon survives, Samwell would make an absolutely great Grand Maester. We get a situation where the Iron Throne is kind of melted down in the end, and we get like a round table of the seven type of deal, like where everyone has some sort of equal opportunity to say their part. And the cripples, bastards, and broken things, that kind of narrative that has been woven through the series. These people that are quite important.
Speaking of the cripples, bastards, and broken things, do you think that? And this is a question for everybody. Would Jon have been in a position to connect with Sam on the same level if he hadn't had that conversation with Tyrion first?
No.
Never. I don't think so either. I don't think he would have been as open. I think talking to a learned man, connecting, and also understanding the cripples, bastards, broken thing really made him hold true to Tyrion.
Jon imparted some of that, what he learned from Tyrion, onto Sam.
Yeah, he really
which is very important to Sam, because Sam gets more and more courageous as the story grows, right? So that's really important.
Sam the Slayer.
Sam the Slayer.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about Sam's character and Jon's character when they first start interacting, and you can see Jon is sort of this self-important. He knows he's more skilled than everyone else. He's not taking on board that he's had all the training, that he's had all of the equipment, and he comes up against Sam in that ring where he's supposed to be battling.
He's supposed to beat him up, yeah.
And you can tell the Kid character does such a great job. I think of expressing disgust kind of for Sam. He's disgusted, but he has the stark moral compass, and he's still protecting him in spite of his disgust before they really become this duo. And
Well,
I think that's such a great transformation for John.
think about their where they both come from. They're both essentially of noble birth. I mean, John, but they're both kicked out of. They're both this, exiled or pushed out of their noble family. They are two of a kind when they get to the Wall. They're really the only two of noble birth in the entire group that gets up there at that point, and they've both been sent away for a little bit of a different reason. But if we go back and we look at both of their childhoods growing up,
Both were hated by a parent.
they were both hated by their parent, and they were both set on that path. They were meant to be together for that reason. And their background, they were the only two in that group who really could have come together that way, because no one else within that group had even a remotely similar background to the two of them.
Now, going back to that, if and when it comes to the end of the story, John has to sacrifice himself. He's always been willing to do that, and Samwell has to be the one you have to do this or something. I think that would be incredibly sad. Obviously
Making me sad just talking.
But I think that's something that can happen. But I think that John would find comfort in that. He could trust Samwell to give him the absolute best possible solution that they can find to try to solve the problem. And I think that's kind of where we're going with the story. We're gonna see something pretty sad in the end, with some sweet. But I think that Gemma.
I think we've got about 20 minutes left. I think we should open up to you guys. We've banged on enough now, I think.
Enough whinging on the panel.
Less whinging.
What about Tormund and sour goat's milk? Isn't that a great pairing? Sorry.
I was actually thinking more of Tyrion and Shay.
Yeah. I was thinking Tommen and Sir Pounds.
We got Eli.
I just want to shout out Oberyn and opposable thumbs.
Oh.
This could potentially get...
2 points for Eli.
My favorite duo.
Eli, you're gonna have to leave the room. I'm sorry.
my favorite duo is Arya and the Waif. I just have.
Oh, you're kicked off the panel, George. Casey.
Two underrated duos. One is Stannis and Jon. I love them together. And then also Jaime and Sir going towards after Brienne.
Stannis and Jon is a great one, even though I absolutely hate
Don't say it.
Stannis.
I hate
Baratheon.
Stannis.
If you gave me a big bag of poo and Stannis Baratheon, I would take the bag of poo.
King? You hate the one
Kyle, the door's there, Kyle. The door is
You hate
there.
the one true king, Kyle.
I'm gonna get I got 10,000 less subscribers today on my channel.
Next year,
He's correct. He's right.
He is.
But I really don't like that guy.
Who actually likes him?
Dad, are you kidding me?
You back there. Oh, that's a good.
Which
Am I
is a
making
real
you warm
life
down
thing
there
as well,
when
which
she's
is
rubbing
awesome.
all up against him? Hilarious.
What did she say? Sorry.
You, sir.
Well, I've always thought that the thing between Daenerys and Jarrell was interesting in that everybody they come into contact with in Essos ends up suffering. Okay, I mean they go from thing to thing. It's just a disaster for everybody they run into. These people die, the city is overthrown. One thing after another.
Poor Jorah.
Yeah.
Friend zone for life. Hashtag.
Yes, miss.
I like Tyrion and Bronn.
Oh, that's
another one. Yeah, I mean, Bronn and anyone is this. I mean,
we were talking about that. It's Bronn and anyone. You put Bronn with any character
Except for
Cersei. Bronn and Podrick are amazing too.
While I hate Cersei, I love Cersei of Qyburn.
Yeah.
Cersei and Qyburn in the show is awesome, right? We don't like. Are we gonna get that in the books? You think?
I can't see it. Not
But in the show, Qyburn, we actually talked about this on a podcast more recently, and we talked about the fact that Cersei is enabling Qyburn to experiment, and Qyburn sees Cersei as a way to continue his experiments. And Qyburn doesn't really care about Cersei. If the mountain is defeated in the Clegane Bowl or something like that, I think Qyburn's taking the high road. He's out of there.
He's definitely defeated in that.
Oh, for sure. I'm just saying, yeah.
Yes, right there.
I like Tormund and Jon.
Oh, that's great.
I saw your pecker.
It's very, very small. You have a very, very small pecker.
They're calling you a god. I saw your pecker.
There's another relationship when we look at Mance and Jon in the books, as opposed to Mance and Jon on the show. we see a completely different relationship. I mean, we see the seeds of that relationship on the show, but it's so much larger, and so many more things happen within the book because Mance's role is so much bigger. And I think that's actually our loss as far as the show goes, is that we're not able to see that develop or see where that might have gone.
That was one character that was kind of made me salty. We didn't get more of him because he's badass in the book.
Way back there. Ooh, I was going to say them too, yeah.
Mr. Chevalier, thin. I don't know.
Listening to them mess with each other and throw barbs back and forth is some of the most entertaining stuff Tyrion gets. I know some people you have no cock, you're short, blah, blah, blah. But I could listen to the two of them talk as like the old men, like the Muppet old men that are just sitting there talking crap. I want to watch something with them just commenting on everything, but they're incredible.
Gemma, when Varys says to Tyrion, a very small man can cast a very large shadow, empowers Tyrion in kind of the same way that Tyrion empowered Jon.
I also like Varys and Littlefinger.
That's a great scene.
Obviously, they don't like each other, but that doesn't matter. That smack talk, that ping pong game that they have every time they sort of shuffled up to each other in the throne room, and you knew you were in for some good monologues there.
Varys doesn't have any ping pongs though.
No ping pong. Yeah, no ping pong. Let's go to King McKay back there. Oh, dude.
Ooh. And that's something that's show only, right?
Yeah.
It was, but it was wonderful.
It was wonderful. One of the best changes. I mean, there's some changes that we could get into. That's a different panel altogether. But I think that is definitely one of the best changes that they put Arya with.
Bruce Bolton is like a vampire in the books.
Yeah,
he's so creepy. It's a disaster. And Charles Dance, props to him.
Sweet brother Numsy.
Robin Greywind.
Oh,
we're going to get into the direwolves and the Starks now because I'm about to cry up here.
Yeah, don't do that to us. We're up there. We're in front of people. We're going to start crying.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to the Arya and Sandor relationship.
Yeah, well, no, kind of.
I see similarities in everything.
I really enjoyed the scenes where she's teaching him to read, and I really love the little nod to Monty Python with the Kirk Nigget. I enjoyed that, yeah.
Janie?
Gendry and Arya.
I can be your family. I love you. You'll be my lady. So, question for everyone, actually, off what Janie said. Do you think that that's going to be something that's consummated in Game of Thrones season 8? I mean, we know we're getting longer episodes, so I think there's going to be some time for them to kind of hang out. Yeah?
I want it. I'm so cheesy. I so want it, but I don't know when there's time.
Who wants it? Show of hands.
Yeah, everyone. Okay. Oh, wait.
Arya. It's Arya's hands in the back there. She wants it. But,
Sir, you have had your hand up.
I was going to say Ned and Robert.
oh, dude, I was going to say the two of them.
Yes.
Like, I would just pay to have seen them on the trail of rebellion, and Robert's like, oh, you want to go to the whore?
What about Robert Baratheon and Lancel? Your mother was a whore with a faltals.
But you're right about that. I mean, especially in book one, where we get those extended times of them just on the road together.
Would they have, like, would he have supported?
Yeah, it's if he had found that information, it would have been. It's in a what if universe. If Ned had got that information to Robert to see what would have happened there and see the progression of their relationship would have been a great thing to see.
Get the breastplate stretcher.
Kyle's just going to be speaking in Robert quotes for the rest of the.
Cut me off the panel. I'm just one line.
When they first announced the prequels, that I wanted to see Robert's Rebellion, not necessarily for Robert's Rebellion, but because I wanted to see that kind of that dynamic between young Ned and young Robert and how it all came about. I mean, we don't have official confirmation, but it doesn't look like it's going to be Robert's Rebellion, does it? Which
my favorite one after Sandor and Arya is Maester Aemon and Jon Snow.
Yeah.
It's an underrated one. Maester Aemon, duty is the death of love, love is the death of duty. That's going to be huge when it comes to the end of the story, because Jon's going to have to make a decision whether he chooses Daenerys or whether he chooses the people. I think that's going to be an incredibly difficult decision.
I think he's already chosen. I mean, it's
yeah.
That's good.
This one is honestly like a good hero, but it's definitely one of the scariest ones with Ramsay and Miranda.
Oh, Ramsay Miranda.
Wow.
Yeah. You make a good good point about, we talked a lot about friendships and duos. A couple were mentioned earlier. There's negative duos too that are really well. I mean, we haven't mentioned Jaime and Cersei. Seeing Jaime and Cersei together may be a little like evil pair, but I love watching them.
Cersei and wine.
Cersei and wine. Excellent point by him.
Robert and wine. Get more wine.
Most of the characters wine, to be fair.
Robert, Aaron, and Liza's breast. I mean, they're perfect.
I'm done. I'm leaving the panel, guys.
It's done.
While we're at it, Ramsay and Reek.
Ramsay and Reek, yeah.
Theon and his toy. Wait.
Theon and his sausage.
10 minutes, okay. Miss, with the Leanna. Hi.
Probably my favorite duo of the whole series is Brienne and Tormund, just because Brienne's special.
Yes!
What's that one song by Celine Dion? I saw a meme, and it's like Tormund and Brienne, and they're like on the Titanic. I can't sing, but whatever.
What's beautiful about that one is, and we were talking about this in the last panel, so much of that is fan-made, and so much that is everything that we're projecting onto it. So we have, all of us at this convention, we all have such ownership of that one. If there's nothing, they didn't put so much in the story or that we've actually seen on screen. It's like a little touch here and there, and it's almost to fuel our flames. But that's a total fan creation one.
That's one of the best memes on the internet.
It really is. It's all our fault. It's amazing.
I saw a recent meme, a very recent meme, and it was Meghan and Harry getting married, and they'd imposed Tormund and Brienne. But the most hilarious thing is that they didn't change Harry's hair. Because they didn't need to.
There's one duo that we've skipped over, and I think it might be the most important duo in the series, and that's Lyanna and Rhaegar.
Lyanna and Rhaegar in the house.
Hi guys.
Yeah,
Lyanna and Rhaegar in the back.
We're totally. But it's true.
They had true love as well. If we look at true love in the series, they truly loved each other, which was very hard.
Where would any of us be sitting here if it wasn't for those two?
Two crazy kids.
And there's another pairing that, would we be sitting here if it wasn't for them? Littlefinger and Lysa Arryn.
Yeah.
They orchestrated a lot of that.
They did. That it was their catalyst, wasn't it? Yeah.
I prefer Rhaegar and Robert's Warhammer.
See, okay, so I've known Eli for 2 years, and he's come into my live chats and trolled me about Rhaegar. I'm a Rhaegar supporter, but whatever. Eli, you're banned from my live chat. It was said that Joanna was the only one that consoled Tywin.
The only one that made him smile. The only time he ever smiled was on their wedding day.
After she died, never smiled.
Gemma has an absolutely great video on that on her channel, Secrets of the Citadel. Shameless plug. Go subscribe to her channel. Okay.
Yeah,
everybody go subscribe or you're banned from this chat. I mean, it's only 7 minutes left now. Beard, sir.
What about John and Ingrid?
Yeah, that's a great one too.
Well, that one kind of jumped out of the show, didn't it?
And
that one went real.
And if John is Azor High, is a very great Nisa. It fits the Nisa in that prophecy. Well, I mean, Daenerys can as well, but part of the Azor High prophecy. Sir?
It's more from the books, but I like the Blackfish and Robb Stark.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Man, they did Blackfish wrong in the show.
Dude, I feel so bad that they did the Blackfish.
And he was so good in the show too.
Off-screen deaths don't count. It's not official. We did not see it. He did swim under that portcullis.
He did. Yeah.
In my head.
He hid under the dumpster.
He did.
Miss you?
Yeah.
Yep.
No one's gonna get that reference.
Sorry, say that again, Miss? Ooh, yeah.
That's another one. Again, what we see is that there's so many differences between the book and the show. That relationship did not exist the same way in the books. I mean, Missandei as a character is someone who's changed so much from the books. She's 10, 11,
like 10 years old, yeah.
And Danny's like 13 or 14?
15, something.
Yeah, it's just bad.
Carol.
Hi, lovely. I love you.
Hello, darling. Davos and everybody.
Davos and everybody. He's another one like Bronn. You put him in any situation, he's like liquid chemistry.
Davos and Jon Snow. I think if Jon survives, Davos comes hands of the king. Jon is resurrected in the show, and he's having the worst panic attack of his life. There's nothing after death. That kind of sucks. Yeah. And Davos is the one that's still there in the room and consoles him. Imagine having to experience that kind of anxiety, and he's like, "It's okay, man. I'm here for you." That's That's a solid one.
Who doesn't want Davos hugs?
And he's handsome.
I like Podrick and Brienne.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that-
The only one who like really respects her.
And,
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
and he teaches her too.
Yeah, and we were talking about that before. He feeds her ego, and he actually allows her to look positively upon herself, which is something she doesn't often get to do.
Well, Pod's another character who, no matter who he's mixed with for a long term on the show,
Especially
he does
Hawes.
great with.
And Podrick has such great respect for Brienne at all times. He treats her with respect, and Brienne there's a lot of people that don't treat her with respect because of her appearance, and Podrick is a great enabler for her.
It almost makes me misty-eyed sometimes seeing when he reaches her, like when he says, "No, you protected both the Catelyn Stark's daughters," and she just gets this moment where she pauses and she goes, "You're right, Podrick," and like it made me feel emotional that she actually felt good about herself in that moment.
Lady Olenna and any land.
It was me.
I was gonna say, speaking of the Tyrells, Marjorie and Loras, I feel like they have one of the best brother-sister relationships because she accepts him for who he is.
Yeah, I mean, in this dysfunctional world, I mean, you know, compared to some pretty obvious candidates, it's quite normal, really, isn't it?
Behind the pole.
Yeah, behind the pole back there in the corner.
I love Tormund, but him trying to be friends with Hound was absolutely.
I hope we see more of that in season 8. I think we're going to get some fan service, obviously.
At this point, I will just keep coming with the fan service. They've given us enough at this point in this last season. I want it to be as entertaining, and we need Mountain versus Hound. Just give us all at this point.
Miss. I'm telling on you.
She asked a question.
I was amazed and wanted it to happen and loved it every time that Jorah and Tyrion would not bond and then bond and then not bond.
Gave him the coin last year as well as a sign of respect. After all they've been through as well, they know they've both been through a lot, so that mutual respect.
It's an excellent opposites attracts type situation because you have someone that's so talkative and someone that just, especially at that stage where he is, doesn't want to talk.
So we're wrapping up here, guys. We got about 3 minutes left, so we'll get a few more in. Yeah.
Such a nerd
No, not everyone gets that one. I'm in stitches though on the inside. We got a few more. The Night King in the Wall. Oh, the Night King in Viserion. No.
I think she really hooked them up because when Jon was trying to get support, she's the one that really stood up, and she's the one that basically called him the King of the North, and she's the only one who did.
You refused the call. Yeah. I can't do the rest.
John with any Mormont we've seen him with has really been something that's been totally supportive for him.
Miss, you had your hand up?
They're not super healthy, but Cersei and Tyrion had a lot of good dialogue.
Yeah.
They really did.
Yeah,
Really
and
did.
it's part of the commitment that the two actors just have such chemistry together. So any scene you see with them, it just adds so much color. And this is what we were talking about, that good pairs aren't necessary. We're focusing on the bromance, the people that, that have positive relationships, but there's so many negative pairs, and seeing the two of them clash is amazing.
We're going to take one more from Carol here. Sam, that's a true love scenario too. What do you think about that one, George?
You know, I'm not. Everyone talks about being true love, but I mean, I kind of think that someone who Sam fell in with, not someone who Sam was going after. Not saying that they're a bad relationship. Don't get me wrong, but he rescued her. It's kind of a weird power dynamic when you think about it. If you take a step back and look at it objectively, it's really kind of an odd relationship. Not saying that they don't work together now, but the manner under which they got together and they both accepted one another. She's the first girl he's probably ever
anything to.
Yeah, right. She's probably the first girl who's ever talked to him.
Oh my!
So we see a very. I'm very appreciative of that relationship, having been a nerd in high school and everything like that. But it's always played a little odd for me. I love them together now, but just that. I have to always go back and think about that original way that they got. He saved her. She jumped in his arms. It's like that hero story that you see in a lot of movies. But when you really think about that one, it's a little bothersome in some ways, isn't it?
Yeah.
So in order to take a wildling wife, you have to.
She's not, though.
Well, she is though.
She technically isn't.
No, she is.
She is.
Craster falls under different rules than all the other wildlings.
But guys, this has been an absolute blast. You guys are awesome today. Thank you so much for joining us today. And you can find Gemma on YouTube, Secrets of the Citadel, Gemma.
Yeah, Secrets of, you know.
Phil the Issues Guys also on YouTube. Azor Hype and George Sartiano. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So there you have it, everyone. Here is our first upload of our panels from Con of Thrones 2018. I wanted to upload this one first because it was an absolute blast. I think this was the most fun panel we had all weekend. I really enjoyed all of them, but having Phil the Issues Guy on with us was an absolute blast. Of course, if you do want to check out Phil, make sure you go check out the description of this video. I'm going to link his YouTube, his Twitter, and his social media so you can go subscribe to his channel and check out his great content as well. You can go check out the links to go check out George Sartiano, my best friend, and of course my best pal on YouTube, Gemma from Secrets of the Citadel. All their links will be in the description of this video. Of course, there is more Con of Thrones footage coming for y'all. We got a lot more coming in the way of panels. We got some more interviews, and we got a lot more of the vlogs coming. If you do want to support the channel, you can check out Patreon. Sign up for Patreon. You can sign up for $1. Costs less than a cup of coffee. You can do $5.20. It really helps me go to events like this and get amazing interviews and yeah, help the channel grow. But anyways, if you did enjoy this video, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and leave a comment and let us know how we did on our panels at Con of Thrones. Thanks for watching, everyone, and hype and love.